everybody. Welcome back. It's Dave LaRock again. In this presentation, we're going to go over pregame and postgame meetings between your umpiring crew. Okay? Let's talk about pregame first. Okay? When should we do a pregame? Well, this should be every single game. There is never an excuse to not do a pregame. Why do we need to do a pregame? Well, first off, we're all at different levels of skill and knowledge. Okay? We don't work with each other every single game. So we don't know how each of us are going to react in certain situations. The whole point of a pregame is to really use this as a knowledge dump to make sure that you're on the same page, because ugly things are going to happen. Right? So we discuss each scenario so that we get it and that we're clear, and that when we get onto the field, we have each other's backs and we know how to deal with the situations as they come up. Well, when do we do a pregame? Before we even get to the field, before we even worry about doing a pregame, okay, we want to use email, text, phone call, contact your partner at least a day ahead of the game. The rule with WBUA has always been that this is seniority based. So who contacts who is based upon the number of years with the organization. If you are a newer umpire to the organization, it's your job and your responsibility to contact the senior member. The challenge I always had with this is I don't really know who's a senior umpire and who's not after year 2. So really, look, if you're relatively new with the organization, shoot your other partner a text, give them a call. Email is kind of last case, but I would say call or text your partner at least a day ahead and go over a bunch of stuff. So let's talk about the assignment, okay? Talk about the time of the game, talk about the field, talk about where you park and what kind of vehicle you drive, and talk about uniform colors. So a quick example is, hey Chris, it's Dave. It's you and me tomorrow night at 5:30 at Cragen. I'll be there at 5 o'clock for pregame. I usually park in the parking lot facing the exit down near the mouth of the parking lot on the left-hand side, and I drive a silver 4Runner. Oh, by the way, my dark blue is in the wash right now, so I've only got light blue. Can you make sure that you have light blue with you? Or if not, let me know real quick and we can come up with a different color scenario. Okay. When you get to the field, get there, like I said, at least 30 minutes before the game's scheduled start time. This gives the opportunity for the plate umpire to get their gear on, to talk about situations, and discuss everything that we're going to do as a team prior to the game starting. Okay, again, rotation, coverage, there's a lot more to this for some of you guys that are relatively new to umpiring. It's not just going out there and being in the right spot and calling safes and outs. It's understanding what's going to happen in each scenario that you're faced with. Just like if you've got runners on and you're playing left field. So if you've got a runner on first and it's a ball hit to left field, what are you going to do with it? That fielder needs to understand the situation, needs to understand who they're going to throw the ball to, who's going to cut that play off if the ball's hit deep. There's a number of things that each teammate on each team has to do. Umpiring is really no different. Understanding who's got the right call, who's going to be in the right position, whose responsibilities are what at what time. That's all part of you developing as an umpire. Okay, so it's going to really help you avoid the embarrassing situations. All right, blown calls, and the worst are those double calls. One umpire says safe, one umpire says out, because you didn't understand whose call that was in that particular situation. So what do we do at a pregame? Let's talk about a lot of these bullet points in some depth and some detail so that you have an understanding. All right. First off, make eye contact and go through signals with your fellow umpires. Understand when you give the number of outs and how you give the number of outs. My mechanics are pretty straightforward. Okay? If there are runners on base, I am showing the number of outs so that we are in the same situation at the same time. We understand and we are in agreement how many outs there are, so that we don't screw something up thinking that there were 2 outs when there was only 1, or whatever the situation may end up being. We want to make sure that we're on the same page. Okay? What is your mechanic for an infield fly? It would be nice if everybody was in agreement with one another if we all as an organization used the same mechanic, but the reality is that we all vary slightly. So let's understand what each other's infield fly mechanic happens to be. Mine is a tap with my right hand to the right side of my head, and then the number of outs. So hand up, tap, infield fly, point one out, or with my hand raised, have a closed fist for 0 outs. What do we do in a first to third situation? Who's got coverage on what bases, and what is my mechanic? So my mechanic, to let you know that I've got third base on this situation, is I'm going to point with my right hand to third base. I expect for all of these mechanics that my base umpire is going to show me the same mechanic back. It's worth noting that all signs and all signals should originate with the plate umpire. That plate umpire is the de facto umpire-in-chief for that game. I don't care if you're on game 1 of your umpiring career or game 30 or game 475. It doesn't matter. The signals need to come from the plate umpire. This is why we go over them in a pregame. Now, obviously, if you're brand new, you're going to get some help. As a reminder, this isn't going to be second nature as it is for a lot of us who have done this for a long time. But it still is important that we work on this, we discuss these signals, so that we don't screw something up. Okay, what happens if there's a situation where there's a double steal? So if we've got more than one runner on, who is responsible for what runner at what time? And what mechanic do we use to remind ourselves that this situation exists? In between innings, is there a mechanic, and what signs should we use to come together in between half innings? Okay. Now, I don't encourage meetings between half innings. There's too many things that can be perceived as the umpire's doing something wrong during that time. If we've got a real close play at first base and then you get together in the half inning, people in the stands are looking down and saying, oh man, they knew they got that call wrong. Look at them talking about that call over there. Okay, so don't come together during half innings. If there's a question that's not regarding that particular play that ended the inning, or if you don't end the inning on a real close play and there is something that you need to have resolved or corrected, depending upon which way it's going, then certainly work through a mechanic that says, hey, we should get together. And when you do get together, don't stand near the backstop. Don't stand near one dugout or another. Talk quietly amongst yourselves over that. You guys are a team out there. There's an offensive team, a defensive team, or a home team and an away team, and then there's the umpire team. Okay? The other two teams don't listen to each other talk. They don't want to. Watch any baseball game. The catcher and the pitcher even put their gloves up over their mouths so no one can read their lips. I don't think we need to take it to that extreme. But understand that whatever you're discussing as an umpiring crew, as an umpiring team, should be heard only between the both of you people, or however many umpires there are working that particular game. Also go over a signal for I have information for you. Okay? This is not only critical for what that signal might be, but it's important to understand when that signal should be used. At no time do we want to offer up that signal or that mechanic unless a manager has already requested time and is requesting to speak with the umpire in question who made the call. So if we've got a situation at first base, the base umpire was over in the C position, for example, and wasn't sure if there was a pulled foot or something along that line, then the plate umpire just stays mum. The manager can request time, be granted by the plate umpire, go out and talk with the base umpire. That's the time when there should be some kind of signal or some kind of mechanic or not to let you know that the plate umpire or the other umpire, whichever the situation happens to be, has some additional information to offer. No signal, no additional information. We don't need to get together just because a coach requested that. We'll talk about that in a minute. So what do we do at a pregame? Okay, it's not just those mechanics and those signals that we discuss, but let's discuss all of the situations that are bound to happen during the game. First off, who has catch or no catch coverage in the outfield? Well, depending upon the size field that you're on, this is going to vary. When it comes to the Little League 60-foot diamond, all catch, no catch coverage is going to be that of the plate umpire. When you get into the intermediate, although the bases are a little expanded, catch, no catch coverage, talk about that at a pregame. Okay, the outfield is not so big that it still couldn't be the plate umpire on all catches, no catches. But this is why we talk about it. What happens when in this situation? Also, who's got fair and foul coverage? Now, just about every time, the plate umpire is going to be responsible for covering fair and foul. That's their primary job. First, fair foul. After that, the only other time where the plate umpire will have assistance with fair foul coverage on a 60-foot diamond, well, actually on a 90-foot diamond also, is when that umpire, the base umpire, is in the A position. What they will have is from the front of first base back to the foul pole at the fence. Anything past the front of the bag, plate umpire, shut up when that base umpire is in A. Okay? That is the base umpire's call. Don't make a double call. One person yells fair, one person yells foul. Well, I hope it was foul in that case because it's going to be dead ball. Somebody yelled foul, even if it hit the chalk and kicked up and somebody got it wrong, okay, that's going to be a foul ball. That's why we got one call at one time. Discuss checked swings and what your mechanic is going to be. If a manager or a catcher requests that you check with the other umpire on a checked swing, always honor that request, even if the umpire is out of position. If you've got a right-handed batter and the umpire in the bases is in C, it's going to be exceptionally difficult for them to understand. So in that case, you know what, look, unless you've got a swing, it's always going to be no swing over if you're in the C position as a base umpire. But understand specifically what might happen on a third strike on a checked swing. So if we've got a ball in the dirt and that player checks his swing or attempts to check his swing, let's say, okay, that plate umpire should instantly and immediately go down to the other umpire and say, did he go? Unless he's got a definite yes he went, and when I say he, I mean the plate umpire. If the plate umpire has a definite yes he went, make sure that you're verbalizing that and you're selling it so that because he did go, because the ball's in the dirt, there's additional playing action that can happen. If he didn't go and you're unsure, throw it down to that other play because it might be a ball at that point. And we don't want to get into a little bit of a show, a little bit of a messy situation where the runner takes off because he's not sure, there's a tag out, another runner advances. Avoid all of that. So understand what the mechanic is when it comes to checked swings, especially when it's around an uncaught third strike. Again, talk about a mechanic and coming together in between half innings. Some umpires like their partner to come in between halves. Some don't. Talk about it. I don't recommend that you do personally, but again, make sure that you're on the same page so that you know when to come in and when not to come in between half innings. Okay? Talk about running lane interference. Who might have that call? 99% of the time it's going to be the plate umpire that has responsibility for running lane interference. But there may be a situation where that umpire is shielded, has another responsibility, whatever the case may be. And in which case the base umpire can certainly be a backup. This is a if you see it, call it situation. Let the plate umpire attempt to make the call if they think it's there. If you see that the plate umpire isn't going to make it, yes, it's a split-second decision, go ahead and call that. Also talk about rundowns. Where, when, how to join. As a plate umpire, your responsibility is the plate first. Rundowns oftentimes happen when there is a runner on third, the batter runner gets caught up between first and second, and the plate umpire needs to make sure that the run scores before the out is made so that they can count that run, or make sure that the out is made. Either way, the plate umpire should be backed up at the point of the plate, behind the plate, making sure that something happens in what time so that they can understand when to award that run or not. If there isn't a runner coming home, then that plate umpire needs to join the play and assist. And the proper mechanic is to get up the line, whether it be the first or the third base line, depending upon where the rundown is happening, and alert your partner once you're in position to assist making a call. Don't say, I'm coming, because that umpire who's on the bases, who's got a sole responsibility for that rundown, isn't going to know when you're there or not. Pay attention to what you have to pay attention to. Get in position. When you're in position, I'm here, I've got first, or I'm here, I've got third, or whatever it happens to be. Or I'm staying here at the plate, I've got the plate. Wherever the rundown is occurring, make sure that you're communicating with your partner when you are in a position to assist, and then understand whose call it is. If the tag is made on that runner as they are approaching you, and that tag is on the front side where you see the contact, you've got that call. If it's on the back side, it's the other umpire's call. Also, talk about the plate umpire having touches and tags at third base. Make sure that that's communicated. It's pretty straightforward and a given, but also talk about it and let you know. Anytime there's a runner on, I have a tag up on a fly ball, that runner tagging up from third, or that runner touching third. Okay? The batter runner, if there's nobody on, the base umpire has that batter runner all the way around. So understand that. Make sure that you're going over that point. Talk about rotations, when they stay home, when they're covering third, and what mechanics you use to let your base umpire know where you're going to be. Mine are pretty straightforward. I'm either pointing at third base with the number of outs, or I'm pointing at the plate with the number of outs. So I'm showing you the number of outs and where I'm going to be, all in the same mechanic when there's runners on base. Talk about a foul ball in the box. With Little League kids, if they foul the ball off themselves, generally speaking, they crumple like a bag of rocks. It's not hard to tell. But as the kids get a little bit older, if they foul it off their foot, obviously their pain tolerance is a little bit greater. So they'll take one fouled off the foot that dribbles out towards the mound, and they'll try and leg that out into a single, thinking that it's legitimate, and try and sell you on it. So if the base umpire sees that situation, kill the play. You see it, you call it. Yes, it's normally the plate umpire's responsibility, but talk about assisting one another on the field. You're a team out there. Same thing holds true with overthrows. This is something that the plate umpire is going to be responsible for 99% of the time. But there are situations, and there are a lot of fields that we work, where the ball can go out of play off the backside of a dugout, and it's shielded by the dugout itself, by the fence, so that the plate umpire can't tell that that ball goes out of play. Something like over at Continental, where the first base dugout is ahead of first base itself. If there's an overthrow there, that ball can easily, and I've seen this happen numerous times on that field, bounce off a fence post and dribble into the dugout, at which point the base umpire really is the only person that's going to have a view of that play. You see it, you're sure, you kill it. Just about every other sense, that's going to be a plate umpire responsibility. Okay? Swipe tags, pulled foots, or a pulled foot at first base. The plate umpire should be watching for tags and pulled foots in every situation. When that ball is hit on the ground in the infield, that plate umpire, assuming that there's nobody on third base at that point, needs to get a couple of steps out of the box. Clear the catcher. All you need is 10, 15 feet up the line. You're not going to get much on a Little League diamond. Okay, on a 90-foot diamond, you're going to get up the line a little bit further because you've got more time to get up the line. But on a 60-foot diamond, do not stand behind home plate when the ball is hit and put in play. Come up the line. Don't interfere with anything. If you've got a catcher-pitcher on a bunt, give them their space. Get as best angle as you can. It's always going to be angle over distance. And make sure that you're watching that first baseman's foot hold the bag. Okay? If you've got a base umpire who's over in the B or the C position, they may not have as good of a look at it, especially in C. They might be flatlined on the play so that it's straight on and not be able to tell if that foot came off the bag or not. Plate umpire needs to help on that. Understand with one another who's got what touch, what tag, and what happens in an appeal. Generally speaking, the base umpire is going to take tags and touches on all bases with the exception of third, if there are runners on. Okay, so if there's a touch or a tag up at third, that's going to be the plate umpire's responsibility. Not only are they going to have the catch, but they're going to have to get their line of vision straight so that they can see when the catch was made and when that runner on third leaves the bag. So all appeal plays, generally speaking, are going at third base are going to be the plate umpires on a fly ball tag up situation. If it's an appeal on a runner when there is nobody on, that touch at third base is going to be the responsibility of the base umpire. So talk about whose responsibilities. That really highlights that top line that we see on here. Touches and tags at third with runners on. Otherwise, it's the base umpire. So talk about the appeals. 90-foot diamond, now we start to get into some different mechanics. Now we start, especially in the federations, it really isn't Little League specific, but in federation rules for high school, there's a force play slide rule. So on a force play, that runner going into second base on a potential double play situation needs to slide or avoid. Okay, and that's really what we have in Little League as well, but there are specific rules surrounding how they can legally slide that Little League doesn't get as stringent about. In Little League, it needs to be, they can slide, they have to slide towards the bag, through the bag, but it's not as strict, believe it or not, as it is in high school. The plate umpire needs to pay attention to these things, especially on a 90-foot diamond, where a lot of times you've got maybe a runner going on the pitch, or it's a hit and run situation, or they get a good jump. That play at second base, okay, is the responsibility of the base umpire. They are watching the out, they are watching the pivot, and they are watching the play and the throw go over to first base. The plate umpire is picking up anything that happens off the front side of that double play, such as runner oversliding, runner interfering, runner getting way out of the way to affect that double play, in which case the plate umpire's got some responsibility to assist. Generally speaking, it's going to be the base umpire that sees it, especially if the second baseman doesn't make a throw because they're interfered with. Okay? But keep an eye on those things so that you can assist the base umpire. In a 90-foot diamond, fly ball coverage is a little bit different. In a 60-foot diamond, a plate umpire has all catches. Let me say that again. In the 60-foot diamond, the plate umpire has all catches. In a 90-foot diamond, there's different scenarios. Who has what is dependent upon the base umpire's position. So if we've got nobody on, the base umpire in the A position, and there's a fly ball or a trouble ball to right, that base umpire should go out. Okay, so let's talk about trouble balls for a split second. Trouble ball is defined as one of four different things. One, you've got a fielder going way back. They may or may not have to catch over their head or make a diving catch for that's going back towards the fence. It's where that fielder is coming in hard and might make a catch below his waist. Where you've got two fielders converging, so the center fielder and the right fielder converging on the ball, and they may collide, or it may be a trouble catch over there, or whether that ball is sinking towards the line and that right fielder is coming towards the foul line. In those four situations, that base umpire should be going out. Now we need to discuss at this point what their mechanic is. Some guys want a mechanic such as they raise their hand, they wave their head behind their back, they yell, "I'm going," a combination of any of those. For me, you develop your own system. For me, I'm going to react upon that base umpire. I don't require an additional mechanic. Once they go, and they're dead. So if that umpire on the bases goes out for a trouble ball, then the plate umpire has everything else. You had better have your butt out towards the pitcher's mound at least. Get out from behind the plate on a 90-foot diamond. Because what's happened is if they've got a trouble catch that's going back or towards the line, and you've got a fast kid that it's uncaught, that runner's going into second. With the base umpire out in right field watching for a catch, no catch, the plate umpire better be in position to make a call on a play at second, or if it's a gapper, at third. Plate umpire's got to move, guys. Plate umpire does not stand behind home plate ever, unless they're just calling a ball or a strike. Every time that ball's in play, that plate umpire's moving someplace else. What about calling balks? Some of the guys that you work with will want you to parrot or echo the balk call so that it looks like you have a consistent approach. If I'm the plate umpire and I call a balk, the base umpire should call a balk. It's up to you. I don't care. If you see it, call it. I don't have a particular mechanic for that. I don't require somebody else to validate my balk call just for consistency's sake. Some guys like that. So get on the same page. Understand what your partner needs. Talk about getting the call right, okay, and when you might want to get together to discuss getting it right. If you're the base umpire in the A position and you've got to play at first base and you've got it all day long, guess what? That's your call all day long. If you boot it, you make a bad call, or the manager thinks that you do, and he comes out and says, hey, can you get together with your home plate umpire after you just made a call from the A position at first base? Don't. That's not the time to get together. These are the things to talk about, though, and make sure, especially for younger umpires, that they know when it's appropriate to honor a request from a manager to get together with your fellow umpire and discuss a call. If you don't get a chance to pregame, if you don't get a chance from your last game to do a thorough post-game conversation with your partner, then the pregame of your next game is a fine time to talk about stuff. Now, we always want to do a post game, but there may be a situation where you've got another commitment. It's a weekend. I just did a double header. I'm finishing up game 2. I'm running late because I've got a commitment down in Newport that I need to get to, and I can't really stick around for a post game. I'm sorry, I've got to bounce. I'm running late already. Those things happen. But try and do a post game every game. At least go over some of the basics, okay? And we'll talk about post-game coming up next. Also, it's a perfect time to talk about personal progress. What are you working on? Is there a specific question that you had? Is there something you don't understand? Is there a mechanic that you're trying to incorporate or trying to break yourself of? I happen to have a really bad habit at present of turning my head to the left and then back forward every time I call a strike. I don't know where I developed this. It aggravates the snot out of me. But what I'll do is whoever I'm working with, I'll let them know, hey, I'm trying to break myself with this damn thing. So far it's been 6 months of last season and I couldn't freaking do it, but I want to do this. So I'll talk with the person and say, hey, bust my balls. Let me know when I turn my head to the left. Give me some kind of simple mechanic. Turn your head, nod at me, wave, lift your hat off, whatever it happens to be, some kind of sign or a signal to let me know that I've done it so that I'm conscious, I'm aware of it, and I can work on breaking it. Okay, that's a perfect time. So let's talk now about post-game. When do we do a post-game? Again, same as we do a pre-game. Every single game. So let's talk about why we do a pregame. What do we talk about? Okay, well, first off, we do this to add clarity to difficult situations that came up. There's always going to be, well, I don't want to say always, but most of the time, there's going to be one play that happens that we were unsure of if we applied the rule correctly. Now, Little League managers, for the most part, don't know the rule books through and through. It's our job to know the rule books. It's their job, really is too. But let's face it, they don't know the rules. Okay, so that's not to say that we want to cheat them. We want to apply the rules fairly, and we want to make sure that we're adjudicating a particular instance in accordance with the rules, and we get it right. But there's going to be a difficult situation that we may want to break out the rule book for. So always make sure that you have a copy of the rule book in your car. It just makes easy sense. If you've got it at home and you want to go home and look it up, that's fine. But I'll tell you what, it's just extra time. You've got your partner right there. You're getting undressed. You're getting changed. Take out the rule book. Make sure that you've got a rule that was applied correctly. Okay, because we also want to leave the game at the field. Let's decompress. Let's talk about what we blew, if we did blow anything. There's been plenty of times where I've blown a call, and I've got there at the game, son of a bitch, I can't believe I booted that call at first. What did you have on that one, man? Did you have him safe? Did you have him out? I felt like I just missed it, or I was in the wrong position. If it was you, what could I have done differently? Let's talk about these things, because I don't want to carry that with me. I want to figure it out what I did wrong. I want to learn from it, and I want to get better, and I want to improve. And it allows me to leave that play behind me at the field. I'm not taking it home and just mulling it over in my head perpetually for the rest of my night. Okay, but the primary reason why we do a post game is to learn. This is the opportunity to get better. It's to look up a rule that you weren't sure of. It's to discuss with your partner how they may have handled that situation differently. It's to figure out what we can do to improve as umpires. So, where do we do a post game? Well, generally speaking, in the parking lot. Note, away from coaches and parents' ears. This is critical. Don't have a conversation about a play that you booted while there's a coach or a parent nearby. Just common sense, folks. Look around, keep your conversations limited. You don't want them coming by and going, I knew you blew that call. Haha, I heard you talking about it. Just don't. If you don't want to do it in the parking lot, man, let's get out of here. It's too hot. Let's go get a beer. Fine. No problems with that. Okay? But also make sure that you're not in earshot of the coaches and parents. If you're out having a beverage, make sure that people from the field site aren't at the restaurant behind you. Dave's Bar and Grill. Just about every night of the week, there are players and coaches and parents, sometimes a bunch of them, all there. Kids love Dave Bar and Grill. They go play video games, shoot pool, whatever it happens to be. Parents can relax too. It's easy. So there's, generally speaking, always somebody at Dave's, if that's where you go, who's going to be in earshot of what you're talking about. Keep your conversations between yourselves so that they're not overheard. On top of that, you just don't know who knows who, especially in this damn state, man. It's so small, everybody knows everybody. So if you're out there going, oh man, this manager Bob from Continental, what a piece of crap this guy is. Oh my God, I can't believe he is so obnoxious. And somebody overhears you and goes, hey, my brother Bob manages at Continental. Wait a minute. And then it gets back to Bob, and then, hey, a couple of guys were talking about you while they were having beers the other night. It just isn't good. So make sure that your conversations, if you are complaining about somebody, this just makes common sense, are limited to what you're talking about. Also, hey, if you're going out for an adult beverage after the game, change. Don't wear your hat, don't wear your jacket, don't wear your shirt. If all you brought is your umpire pants, whatever. I'm not saying everybody has to change their pants in a parking lot. But don't go out looking like an umpire. People come in, as I said, are going to see you, are going to recognize you as an umpire, and the last thing that you want is somebody saying, oh man, look at that guy. I wonder if he's having beers before he's going out to do a kid's baseball game. We all know that's not the case, or at least I hope. But worse than that is if the game ended on something that you called, you banged an out, or you made a safe call that allowed the winning run to score, or you opened up your strike zone, which I don't recommend you do anyway, but if you did something at that game, and then you're out having a beer and somebody walks in, oh, look at this guy. No wonder he made that call. He couldn't wait to get out of there and have a beer. Just don't identify yourself as an umpire to anybody surrounding you. That's all. What else do we discuss? Okay. Well, we discuss any plays that you were unsure of on the field, like I said. Okay. Did we handle this correctly? What might have been done differently? Did we apply a right rule? Let's look up a rule. Did we go through and were we in a position that we shouldn't have been in? Did I neglect to show you an infield fly situation when there was one? Did I see something in your mechanics in terms of your footwork that I think you could benefit from? So discuss your mechanics and be constructive. Nobody wants to get torn up after a game. Oh my God, you freaking sucked. I can't believe that you're out here. Who trained you? What a piece of crap you are on the bases. No way. This really should go without saying. And just about everybody in the organization is good with handling and being constructive in their criticism, but also be able to receive criticism. Even if you've been doing this for 20 years, take something away. If I say, hey man, why did you do that in that situation? Maybe there's a reason why somebody is asking you that question, and it's not because they're criticizing you. Maybe it's because they want to learn, or maybe it's because they saw you do something that they were trained to do differently, and they want to understand your reasoning and your logic. So if somebody asks you a question, hey man, we had a runner on third, there were two outs, and you moved over into the B position when I was told that everybody should be in the C position in that situation. Why did you do that? Okay? Be ready for questions like that. Well, it's because that I had a right-handed batter up. So I moved over so that I could assist on a check swing. The odds are that the play was going to go to first base anyway. So that runner on third, the likelihood of a pickoff or a throwback to third base is so reduced compared to the likelihood of a play at first base or a check swing that I want to play the odds. That's why I'm in B when I've got a righty up with 2 outs. Simple. Okay? Also, be willing to learn. We're all out here to try and pick up something. Okay? From each game, take away one nugget, whatever it happens to be, whether it's a rule application or whether it be how to deal with a manager differently. Maybe somebody came out and got in your face and you thought about it and you were a little standoffish, maybe you were a little unprofessional, or you let this guy get away with a little too much and maybe you should have warned him or in some situations dumped him. Think about these types of things. Were you in the right place at the right time from a positioning standpoint? Again, how were your mechanics? Take away one of those nuggets so that you can move on to your next game and increase your knowledge as an umpire. As always, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Thanks for your time, guys.